again, that splashdown targeted to take place at 8:07 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, April 10th, off the coast of San Diego, California.
Integrity, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
From Integrity, we are ready for the event.
NASA Public Affairs Office, please call Integrity for a voice check.
Integrity, this is NASA PAO Courtney Beasley. How do you hear me? Integrity, this is NASA PAO Courtney Beasley. How do you hear me?
Hey, Courtney, we hear you, but you are very low.
Okay, I will try to talk a little bit louder. Reid, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, it's great to see you today. We have a room filled with media eager to talk
Courtney,
to you.
we have you loud and clear.
Wonderful. We have a room full of media ready to talk to you today, and we also have them on our phone bridge. We have a limited amount of time, so we're going to go ahead and hop straight into questions. We'll start here in the room with Marcia Dunn. Go ahead.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for you, Reid. Could you please describe your emotions when Jeremy called down to Mission Control to ask permission to name a lunar crater after your late wife, Carol? It was a pretty emotional, powerful moment down here.
Marcia, it was a powerful moment up here as well. My crewmates approached me when we were at Kennedy in quarantine, and they said, hey, the three of them had talked and they would like to do this. And that was an emotional moment for me. And I just thought that was just a total treasure that they had thought through this and they had offered this. And I said, absolutely, I would love that. I think that's just the best. And I said, but I can't give the speech. I can't give the talk. And Jeremy, the kind of guy he is, he said he would do it. And it was getting emotional there. And I think when Jeremy spelled Carol's name, Carroll, I think for me, that's when I was overwhelmed with emotion. And I looked over and Christina was crying. I put my hand down on Jeremy's hand as he was still talking. It was right there on that rail. And I could just tell he was trembling, and we all pretty much broke down right there. And just for me personally, that was kind of the pinnacle moment of the mission for me. That was, I think, where the four of us were the most forged, the most bonded, and we came out of that really focused on that day ahead. I think that was a very caging moment for the four of us. Thank you for that question, and it was a great moment.
We'll take our next question in the room here from Joey. Go ahead.
Thanks. Joey Roulette with Reuters. I'm curious, Reid, and for anyone else who wants to answer it, how has this mission changed you guys personally and your views of the moon? These photos make it look kind of intimidating and beastly, and just curious to hear your thoughts on how you guys have also changed during this mission personally. Thank you.
I had an opportunity earlier to answer this question from my own perspective, and we have seen just some extraordinary things that I thought we might see. They looked similar to what I thought they might look like, and other things that I just had never even imagined. And those were different perspectives that we saw these things from, but I have to say, it hasn't changed my perspective or the perspective that I launched with. But the perspective I launched with was that we live on a fragile planet in the vacuum in the void of space. We know this from science. We're very fortunate to live on planet Earth. And the other perspective that I've sort of learned from others through life is that our purpose on the planet as humans is to find the joy in lifting each other up by creating solutions together instead of destroying. And when you see it from out here, it doesn't change it. It just absolutely reaffirms that. It's almost like seeing living proof of it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take one more question here in the room and then head to our phone bridge. If you are on the phone bridge and have a question, just a reminder to press *1. Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Integrity. It's so wonderful to speak with you. This is Jackie Waddles with CNN. Obviously, there is a huge moment coming up with reentry. Can you describe your feelings, how you're preparing for that moment mentally and physically? And then as you prepare for the end of the journey, what are some moments that you know that you'll take with you for the rest of your life from this journey? Thank you.
It started off sounding like an easy question for me to answer, and then it got really big. But I guess the entry thing, I'll be honest and say, I've actually been thinking about entry since April 3rd, 2023, when we got assigned to this mission. And one of the first press conferences we were asked, what are we looking forward to? And I said, splashdown. And it's kind of humorous, but it's literal as well, that we have to get back. There's so much data that you've seen already, but all the good stuff is coming back with us. There's so many more pictures, so many more stories. And gosh, I haven't even begun to process what we've been through. We've still got 2 more days. And riding a fireball through the atmosphere is profound as well. So I have to answer that question later. I'm not sure, but I can tell you it's a lot. And lifelong memories. I'm going to be thinking about and talking about all of these things for the rest of my life, for sure.
All right, we'll head over to our phone bridge. Our first question there is from Kelly Malone with Canadian Press. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Kelly Malone with the Canadian Press. There's a lot of excitement about scientific advancements as a result of the mission. You just spoke about the data, and I know you've spoken about training on robotics in Montreal. What are the takeaways from these missions so far that might be applied to robotics or other international tech efforts in the future? And just a quick personal note for Jeremy. I'm told you got a surprise message from your family. Can you share what it was like to hear from them?
Advancements in robotics? Well, when I think about the Artemis program in general, we've already seen some investments in pushing robotic technology forward for deep space that we're going to see put to good use in one way or another. And this is the beauty of this program that brings an international collaboration, sets big goals, and doesn't just talk about them, but goes after them and gets it done. We're going to need the advances in robotics. It's really hard out here. We're a long way from home. We've been learning the entire journey. We've been watching mission control learn. You do a lot of testing on the ground, but your final test is when you get this hardware to space, and it's a doozy. And our team has just performed. They've just knocked it out of the park, but it doesn't mean it might look easy from the outside. We can tell they are working so hard on the ground to do this, and we really appreciate them. And so when we get these next generation robotics on the surface of the moon and out in deep space, there's going to be some challenges, there's going to be some failures along the way, and there's going to be some learning that happens. On the personal note, yes, I had some videos from all of my family, my 3 children, Devin, Ashley, and Caitlin, and my wife, Catherine. And when you're out in deep space by the moon and you are listening to a video they recorded for you before you launch, that's something.
We all had it so great. Yep.
Okay, our next question is from Micah Maidenberg with the Wall Street Journal.
Hi, good evening. For anybody who'd like to answer, how do you think the flight has contributed to the broader Artemis program? Of course, it's not over yet, but what do you think the crew has already brought to the table for the next couple of missions? Thank you.
Well, I love this question because part of our ethos as a crew and our values from the very beginning were that this is a relay race. In fact, we have batons that we bought to symbolize physically that. We plan to hand them to the next crew, and every single thing that we do is with them in mind. Oftentimes, it's actually easier in human spaceflight, especially on a first mission, to accept some of the things that aren't working quite right or the operational workarounds. And we have actually been diligent to try to fix everything. And we're always thinking from the perspective as what is the next crew going to think about this? How will this help them to succeed? So manual piloting the vehicle, making sure that the procedures and the processes for making everything work are all as they should be. Then there's the human side of it. How are our provisions? How are our food? How is the human system working in here? Taking the time to do all of the developmental flight test objectives that have been scheduled. So both in the vehicle and all in the last 3 years, we've really just worked to make sure that they are set up for success. And that's all of the teams, not just the crew, but the flight control teams, the mission engineering rooms, the launch teams, everyone. We've done our best to bring folks together and to make sure that we can be the best they can be. Obviously, just testing, putting humans in this vehicle is is the easy thing to see. And we hope that we've capitalized on that and made it as much as it can be for our time here.
Our next question is from Alex Wilson with the Weather Channel.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for your time. You're space experts, yet time and time again, we've heard you amazed by things that you've seen on this mission. So what has been the biggest scientific surprise or discovery for you?
The whole mission, truly the whole mission, but we saw really amazing simulations made by our lunar science team about what the eclipse would look like when the moon was 30, 35 times bigger than the sun. But seeing that,
Communications, we should be regaining them here.
Then we lost your video and handheld mic audio stream. We are troubleshooting.
All right, Jenny, we see the issue and we're correcting it. We'll probably need about 30 seconds and then we should be streaming again.
Copy. Sounds great. Thank you.
okay, comm check. How about now? Are we back with you?
And Jenny, how much of Victor's answer did you hear?
Yeah, we have you back, video, and the handheld mic seems to be back up too, and Victor should repeat his answer. Over to PAO.
Okay. The thing that we saw that really surprised me the most is we trained to view the eclipse from the far side of the moon, or after going beyond the far side of the moon. We saw great simulations made by our lunar science team, but when that actually happened, it just blew us all away. I mean, you heard the reaction real time, but it was the fact that we trained for it, and it almost was a thing that we were, I don't want to say unhappy about, but launching on April 1st meant the far side wasn't as illuminated as we were hoping. And so, that thing seemed to be a consolation, and it was one of the greatest gifts of that part of the mission.
Okay, we'll come back here in the room to Andrea. Go ahead.
Hi, Andrea Leinfelder of the Houston Chronicle. I'd like to hear about life inside Orion. Christina, in the fall you said the capsule would feel bigger in microgravity. Does it feel bigger? And at what moments do you find that you're bumping into your crewmates, and what tips will you be given to future crews?
Wow, we have loved living in Orion. And in fact, we've all said that sometimes you can forget where you really are because we're in this small space that just gives us everything we need. But the answer to your question is yes, it is bigger in microgravity. And yes, we are bumping into each other 100% of the time. A phrase that you often hear in the cabin is, don't move your foot. I'm just going to reach for something right under it. Or, can I get there? And my goal is to get over there. And we're constantly moving around, whether it's to complete a task, to just eat, to look out the window, photo, to take a picture. Everything we do in here is a 4-person activity. But it's also really fun.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Will. Go ahead.
Thank you, Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. It's good to talk with you all. Victor, I want to go to a comment that you made a couple of hours into the lunar observations. You said, and I quote you here, "The Terminator is calling to me." What was it about the observation of the Terminator specifically that was so captivating for you and the rest of your crew? Thank you.
One being 3,500 miles from it. I mean, it was so big, and now it wasn't an image on a screen, but it was all of the things we had talked about in training, the terrain, how you can see features based on how high they are above the surface and how low things were. And there were holes that, craters that appeared to just be endless, bottomless pits, and then peaks that seemed to be, I couldn't tell how high, but you could just really get a sense of the relief down on the surface, and to look down on it from so close or over at it from so close was just, it was hard to describe. When you are in an airplane flying back past, Flagstaff, you're looking out the window trying to, identify meteor crater, or looking out trying to find the Grand Canyon. And this was the same thing. But imagine if you had seen meteor crater or the Grand Canyon for the first time.
Our next question is from the phone bridge from Lauren Grush with Bloomberg.
Hi, so great to talk to you for. The world has been watching along with your journey with such enthusiasm and joy. Do you have any sense or feedback of how your mission has reached the masses back on Earth? And does that influence you at all when you speak and narrate your journey?
Thank you for this question. We have had, I'm going to answer it a little bit differently than it was asked, but I'll get there in a second. But we have had a chance, the 4 of us, we've had 2 opportunities each to have very brief video chats with our families. And I will tell you, first of all, the 4 of us are now forged in a friendship that is very unique, and we will cherish this bond that we share for the rest of our lives. And then one of the neatest things being a crewmate on this spacecraft is not being in the family conference, but hearing your crewmates giggling and crying and just gasping and listening and loving their families from afar. Family is so important to all 4 of us, and that has been amazing. And when I got to talk to my daughters, Ellie and Katie, for the first time, I just couldn't even speak. I was just so overjoyed. I was crying. I mean, it is an amazing experience. But what also came from that is really our source of news on planet Earth. And those family members have been our source of how the mission is going from the public perspective. Obviously, they're all biased, although most of our kids are teenagers, so maybe they're not quite that biased, but they're biased. But what we had really hoped, and we said it a lot before, I mean, we really are here to serve NASA, to serve our 2 nations, Canadian Space Agency, NASA, and the international community, and we're here to serve for Artemis III. But what we really hoped in our soul is that we could, for just a moment, have the world pause and remember that this is a beautiful planet in a very special place in our universe, and we should all cherish what we have been gifted. And I think for the folks that decided to tune in, and it sounds like it was quite a few, this has happened, and for that we are eternally grateful.
Our next question is from Noah Haggerty with the Los Angeles Times.
Hey, great to hear from you all. You had 40 minutes of a pretty profound solitude. You were, farther from Earth than any humans before you. No means to communicate with Earth. It was really just the 4 of you, the spacecraft, and the moon. Can you talk us through what that moment felt like?
Well, Courtney's running this press conference, and she knows I always speak the truth, sometimes with a little bit of embellishment. But I will tell you exactly as it went. When we watched that Earth eclipse behind the moon, wow, I'm actually getting chills right now just thinking about, my palms are sweating. But it is amazing to watch your home planet disappear behind the moon. You could see the atmosphere. You could actually see the terrain in the moon projected across the Earth as the Earth was eclipsing behind the moon. It was just an unbelievable sight. And then it was gone. It was out of sight. And we took a moment here. We had a lot of scientific work to do right there. That was probably the most critical lunar observations for our geology team. But the four of us took a moment. We shared maple cookies that Jeremy had brought, and we took about 3 or 4 minutes just as a crew to really reflect on where we were, and then it was right back into the science. And it is a surreal feeling, but we had a lot of work to do too, and I think that kept our focus. And so it's only come like later, and we still haven't even begun to reflect on this mission. We had a little bit of a light work day yesterday, and we were starting to journal and reflect a little bit. And there's a lot that our brains have to process. Human minds should not go through what these just went through, and it is a true gift. And we have a lot that we just need to think about and journal and write, and then we'll get the full feeling of what we just went through.
Take our last question here in the room. Go ahead.
Hello, Artemis crew. This is Rebecca Morell from BBC News. Now you're almost home. What will you miss most about being in space, and what won't you miss at all?
Well, first of all, thank you for that question. I will miss this camaraderie. I will miss being this close with this many people and having a common purpose, a common mission, getting to work on it hard every day across hundreds of thousands of miles with a team on the ground. This sense of teamwork is something that you don't usually get like as an adult. I mean, we are close like brothers and sisters, 100%. And that is a privilege we will never have again. I have to say, I don't think there's anything I would say I won't miss or that I'm just ready to be over, because this whole thing is a package. We can't explore deeper unless we are doing a few things that are inconvenient, unless we're making a few sacrifices, unless we're taking a few risks. And those things are all worth it.
All right, that's unfortunately all of the time we have for today. Reid, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, you have captivated the world through this mission. We're all watching, we're all cheering you on, and we can't wait to welcome you home in a few days. Thanks for joining.
It was great hearing your voice again, Courtney. Take care.
Integrity, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all the participants. Integrity, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
Houston, Integrity for a quick kind of a PAO item, but more of an item for the folks in the control room there.
Go ahead.
Do you have our video still?
We do.
I'm not sure if it made it in the handover, but this morning we were asked to go unpack a very special item, and we just wanted to we wanted to share it in that PO event. We just didn't get an opportunity to do so. So we're going to share with you all because we need to share this. Like this has to be shared, right? So in Victor's hands here is the Apollo 18 flag that the agency asked to have put on board Artemis II so that it could take its rightful trip around the moon. And the four of us are just honored to have this here. We're honored that it is in our presence, and we are honored to carry the torch from Apollo through Skylab, through the space shuttle, through our beloved International Space Station, and now back further than humans have ever gone, around the far side of the moon, and safely home back to Houston. So we just wanted to share this with you because it needed to be shared. Thanks.
Carrying the torch indeed. Thank you for sharing it with us and the world, and we'll look forward to welcoming you and that flag back to Houston shortly. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We have a quick follow-up question from that PAO event. We would love to know what you did to fix the stream when it briefly went out.
And we believe the battery died in the D5, and I set up the downlink, and I believe I saw 2 segments on the battery, so I'm not sure. I also saw another interesting signature on the microphone receiver. There is a red LED that says low battery, but it had 3 full segments. So I'm not sure if there's something else going on. There's something else going on, but we believe it was a battery dying. We switched the battery, turned the camera back on, went live view, and you got the audio and video back.
I would add, Jenny, that definitely for future Artemis missions, using the D5 on live view is probably not the ideal format. I think we knew that going into this, and we were just making it happen. But it is, these cameras get hot, they're chewing up batteries, and it's probably not the ideal source. It works, of course, great. We're very happy that we have this capability.
Yeah, we're tracking, and we could definitely see that. Thanks for letting us know.
Jenny, follow-on question for timeline. I see a Nat Geo card swap on my timeline around now, and I also had one earlier today at 6:20:30. I don't know if I have the one I'm on now or the earlier one, but did we indeed want 2 times to switch the Nat Geo cards today?
We're checking for you, Christina.
Hey, Jenny, one other thing is we've been having issues with our exercise recordings, and the initial thoughts are maybe it's the camera overheating. Again, I thought the battery was good enough to go through a PAO event, so maybe this is another instance of that. We did not turn it back on to see what the battery was. We just changed the battery and restarted it, but that's also a possible reason.
All right, we copy. Good to know.
Jenny, I have a question on the prop.smrcs page when you have a second.
Go ahead.
I am on prop.smrcs. The pressures look great, but I'm getting a weird signature on the helium high pressure crossover pyro, on the ox to fuel safe and the fuel to ox safe valves. Every once in a while, they'll pop up and either say error or armed, and then they go back to safe. Are y'all seeing that telemetry on the ground?
Reid, thanks for calling that down. We are not seeing that. so we will think about it a little bit more. I do have some results from that prop characterization test when you're ready.
And now Victor's come over to the displays, and he has been looking at these pretty intensely since we were on the launch pad, and he said this is not a new signature, that this has been occurring since since launch day. So basically since post-ascent, he has been seeing this similar signature. So he's just going to take a little video of it on his iPhone, and we'll get it to you later. So I'm a little bit less concerned about that now that he's been seeing it for a while. And then go ahead with the test.
Okay, copy. That certainly helps. Regarding the characterization test that we just initiated, we've noticed that on the SM aux branch 1, it has an increasing pressurization of the aux tank at a rate of 0.5 psi per hour. This is really the same behavior that we witnessed around TLI, and at this rate, we will hit the limit we set of 2 psi of pressure raise in 4 hours at 0800 MET right before your sleep. At that point, we will close that ISOL valve again, and that'll be the completion of the test. So we got some really good data that we will take back to the MMT.
That's outstanding. I am so glad you all decided to go chase us down and get the data that'll help out the future missions and help us correlate our pre-flight testing. So we are happy to be a part of that, and that also
we really appreciate the willingness to help. Thanks, crew.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You're currently seeing a live view of the crew on board the Orion spacecraft named Integrity as it continues its return journey back to Earth with that splashdown targeted for Friday, April 10th. The crew recently completed continuing to work through the remainder of their tasks for the day before they head into their pre-sleep period in about an hour and a half from now. One of the items that Christina Koch specifically said she is working on is a card swap for a National Geographic activity. NASA had selected National Geographic to help tell the story of Artemis II, and it was
Houston Integrity. Jenny, any chance I can start the umbilical cabin demo now? I'm happy to wait until timeline.
Reid, yes, you can begin that activity. And Reid, you can give me a thumbs up with this call. In step 2.1 of that procedure, we still will need to give you that MCC go. We need some configuration to complete on our side. Copy, thumbs up.
Again, some communication there between the crew on board the Orion spacecraft and the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control. The crew is working through the remainder of their activities for the day. Christina Koch is specifically working on a card swap related to a National Geographic activity. Following a competitive selection process ahead of the mission, NASA and National Geographic entered into a non-reimbursable Space Act agreement to collaborate on compact, lightweight audiovisual hardware to fly inside Orion and related support for this project. And then the call from NASA astronaut Reid Wiseman a moment ago was related to an activity on his timeline related to some umbilical cabin ventilation. And this is a demonstration in which the crew will configure seat 2 inside the Orion spacecraft with the supply umbilical open to provide airflow directly into the cabin.
Integrity Houston for cabin fan RPM preference. Hey Jeremy, right now your cabin fan is set to 7,000 RPM. At sleep, we normally set it for 8,000 RPM, but we can leave it where it is or even go down another 2,000 RPM in addition. We'd like to know your preference.
Okay, Jenny, we'll just go with what you've been doing nominally for sleep, so you can change it at that time to what you've had last night.
We'll go.
And Houston, just let you know, for the umbilical cabin ventilation task, we are holding in step 2.1 for your go.
Copy. We'll let you know when you can continue. Integrity crew, you are go to continue in the umbilical procedure.
Happy.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We're currently 7 days, 4 hours, and 56 minutes into the Artemis II mission. We are currently seeing a live look inside the Orion spacecraft cabin as the crew continues to work through their timelined activities for the day. Specifically, towards the middle portion of your screen, laying down a little bit, you can see a NASA astronaut Reid Wiseman. He is currently working through an umbilical cabin demonstration, during which he is configuring the seat 2 and supply umbilical, opening it to provide airflow directly into the cabin. The objective of this demonstration is to configure that suit air umbilical to provide directed air into the cabin. So he is continuing to work through that objective. And then following completion of that, as well as a handful of other small tasks, the crew will move into their private medical conference, which wraps up most of the crew day before they head into pre-sleep. And during those private medical conferences, they have the opportunity to talk directly with their medical teams here on the ground. And then once they move into pre-sleep, that is when they are able to complete any hygiene activities, as well as eat their dinner and wind down for the day.
integrity for umbilical cabin ventilation.
Go ahead.
We are on step 2.3, and we have good airflow out of the seat 2 air umbilical.
Copy, Reid. That is a great demo. Thanks for reporting the results. We are go for you to deconfigure when you're ready in step 3.
Okay, pick it up in step 3. Houston integrity for umbilical cabin ventilation, 1 comment.
Go ahead.
First, we're deconfiguration complete. I did a good FOD inspection. Everything looks really good. I would say if we are going to use the wire tie on the air umbilical, if this is a deep contingency, then that's an appropriate path forward. But if this is ever expected to be used during a mission, I would highly recommend we get some milled aluminum that creates a compression over that air umbilical. The zip tie, the plastic on that anodized aluminum of the air umbilical is extremely slippery, and I think we would very quickly just knock that zip tie off if the four of us are trying to maneuver around in a radiation shelter.
Copy. Thanks for the data.
Houston, we're going to terminate your video feed for a minute. We just need to pull some cables out.
Copy.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. You just heard some call downs from the crew on board the Orion spacecraft, who you can see there on your screen. They did note that they are going to be moving the camera, currently providing these views, so we may lose those views momentarily. And recently, NASA astronaut Reid Wiseman also confirmed to the ground that he had completed the umbilical cabin demonstration. This demonstration involved him configuring seat 2 on board the Orion spacecraft in order to open the supply umbilical to provide airflow directly into the cabin. The team had also called up a little bit earlier to confirm that they had completed the propulsion characterization test. Earlier in the mission, the team had observed a pressure increase in the oxygen manifold of the service module's propulsion system and isolated a branch of the oxygen pressurization system. And then since flight day 2, teams had been discussing that particular configuration and developed a test plan. And then after running that test plan through some simulators, they went ahead and decided to execute that test this evening. There was a desire to execute that test while the crew was awake and with the limited time remaining in the mission so that they can back up commands from mission control. So the best time to fit in that test to the plan was this evening, and they have confirmed that that test has been completed. This is Artemis Mission Control. Currently on your screen, you're seeing a live look of the exterior of the Orion spacecraft. These views coming to you from one of the solar array wing cameras. And in the distance, you can also see a crescent Earth. Of course, that is the destination for the Orion spacecraft and its crew now that they are on the return journey portion of their trip. They are expected to splash down in about 1 day, 20 hours, and 17 minutes from now off the coast of California. The crew and the spacecraft are currently about 176,000 miles away from Earth and about 107,000 miles away from the moon, and they are traveling at a velocity of about 2,200 miles per hour.
Integrity crew, when you are able, could you give us an indicator or an indication if you are bumping up against or touching the smoke detector in any way when you're over in that area of the cabin?
I think MCC reported some erroneous data yesterday. Maybe that's happening again. We had a towel over there, but we don't think we're bumping into it. Give us a couple more seconds because we need to grab a few more pictures, and then we'll try to get away from it for a minute.
And we don't have any concern. You guys can stay over there, keep taking your photos. We were just curious. Continue.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We're currently 7 days, 5 hours.
All right, sounds good, Jenny. Yeah, we caught a view of Earth in window 1, and now we're completely distracted for a little bit. You guys are looking great.
Thanks. Yeah, we love that. We were just noticing, it's really cool actually. In the data that ECOM's seeing, they're seeing an indication on the smoke detector, and they think it's when the flash goes off. So we were just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. We're currently 7 days, 5 hours, and 22 minutes into the Artemis II mission. You can see the crew there on your screen inside the Orion spacecraft, which was named Integrity by its crew. They are currently capturing some images. It looks like they're capturing images of each other in front of one of the cabin windows with a view of Earth outside. And of course, we have been uploading and sharing imagery as we receive it from the crew. There on your screen from left to right, you can see NASA astronaut Christina Koch, NASA astronaut Reid Wiseman, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. And it looked like Reid was trying to show off the image that he was capturing just now.
Wow, thank you for showing us that. That is so cool. We look like we're smiling at you, like a little Cheshire cat.
Yeah, that is exactly the same comment that we made, and that's why we put Victor beside it for his smile. And took a picture of him there. His smile is as bright as your smile.
I believe it. Thank you.
Sunny 16 when you need to take a picture of a happy hike.
Now Ecom is as happy as the Earth.
And Houston, you're seeing a little bit of a CCU dump yourselves, Crescent Earth, and the solar array. So it's a pretty sweet view out window one right now. And I'll move over to the other window so you can see the full scale dump in a second. I know you've seen it before with the saw cam.
This is great. We look great together. We see the blizzard. Cool. Thank you.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. The crew providing us some first-hand footage there using the internal cameras inside of the Orion spacecraft. They were showing us a view of the moon out of one of the windows, and now they are showing a wastewater dump out of a different window.
Integrity, that was really cool. We are curious on the quantity of that. Was that the full bag that you're dumping, or is that a CCU?
That was a single CCU, well hydrated.
Very impressive. Good job. And Integrity crew, your email sync is complete, so you can go back hands-on email. But for Reid, we're looking for around 20 minutes to clean up from a power cycle on your PCD. Not urgent. Let us know when a good time is.
If you need my PCD, you can go on it now, please.
All right, we'll put it in work. 20 minutes. We'll let you know when we're complete.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. I have a special guest joining me here today. I have Dr. Corey Theriault, who is a principal investigator for the Artemis II Spaceflight Standard Measures Study. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here.
So coming up on Friday, April 10th, the crew will be splashing down off the coast of California. So once the astronauts land, what happens next for you?
Well, as we heard in the briefing earlier today, they are set for a nominal landing on the West Coast. Now, once they're there are medical teams ready to evaluate them. Crew health and their safety is our #1 priority. Once they get to the recovery ship, their flight surgeons will continue to monitor them. We will ask them to provide some biological samples, and then once they get a little bit of rest, they are going to come to land at the rally site, and at that point is where we really get to start doing some functional performance testing. So it's really important and critical for us to get access to the crew for this sort of functional testing as soon as possible. It allows us to understand how they were adapting to the spaceflight environment, but then also how they are readapting to a 1G environment. So that information will allow us to provide mission planners good information as to what we can realistically expect crew to do from a performance standpoint as they land on the lunar or Mars surface.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit more. Can you tell us more about your role in the Artemis II mission and your study specifically?
Yes, the Artemis II Spaceflight Standard Measures study is part of a much larger project supported by the NASA Human Research Program. Its goal is to collect a consistent set of standardized measures across multiple platforms. Examples of a platform is this Artemis mission. It's a very unique spaceflight mission profile. We heavily rely on crew that go aboard the ISS to conduct research for us. More recently, we've been involved in these private astronaut missions. While they're shorter in duration, it still allows us to get a wealth of knowledge. And then we also have ground analogs that we try to generate similar data. There are certain constraints to conducting human research in spaceflight, but we do our best to generate comparable measures. That way we can do a lot of pre-work on the ground. We can help test countermeasures before they go up on ISS. And then as far as this study, it's really complicated. It's what we call a multidisciplinary study. We're trying to collect a snapshot of how the entire body is performing. We get information pre-flight to establish a baseline of performance, and then we want to look at them and monitor them immediately post-flight or as soon as we can, and then in the following days and weeks upon return. I mentioned the Human Research Program. In its mission statement, it notes the importance of maintaining crew health and performance, particularly during exploration class missions. And up until earlier this week, that was something we could look forward to the future, but now it's a reality. So that really stresses and highlights the importance of collecting this human data on these early Artemis missions that will help us plan for the future missions and boots on the surface of the moon and in the future Mars.
This week certainly has been historic, especially with that lunar flyby that we had just a couple of days ago. But looking forward to landing, you mentioned it a little bit, but what sorts of data will you be collecting as soon as the crew lands?
Right. The best analogy I can use is the study is similar to going to your doctor for your annual evaluations, where they monitor your heart rate, blood pressure. They collect blood and urine and do analysis of that to get a snapshot of how your body is functioning at that point in time. Standard Measures does something similar, but in a more complex research capacity. At landing site, what we call the rally site testing, we really look at their functional performance, how they are adapting to this 1G environment. So we get them to do tasks that seem very simple pre-flight, but can be very challenging immediately post-flight. One of the tests we do is a capsule egress, where we have a skeletonized mock-up of a capsule where we ask the crew to set up a ladder, grab a pack, climb up the ladder, and act as if they're trying to egress out of a capsule. This is something they would have to do in an off-nominal situation. And it's interesting, the crew do comment how easy the task is pre-flight, but
RHC stow is complete.
Copy.
And this is Artemis Mission Control. That call coming down from NASA astronaut Victor Glover as they continue through some of their final tasks for the day. They will be heading into their private medical conference here in about 5 minutes. And then after that, they will begin preparing for sleep during their pre-sleep period. So again, we have Dr. Corey Theriault joining us here on console to discuss the Spaceflight Standard Measures study. So you were talking about some of the data you'll be collecting as soon as the crew lands.
Correct. And I was just explaining how the crew find it challenging to do a very simple task immediately post-flight. We also have a battery of sensory motor tests that again seem simple when I explain them, but can be quite challenging post-flight. Some of the things we ask them to do in this battery is walk a very brief obstacle course, and we have them do this on a gate map to where we can track their steps and look how straight they're walking, how quickly they turn, how they locomote over obstacles. We ask them to also do a tandem walk where, again, very simple. We ask them to walk forward 10 steps, heel to toe, 1 foot in front of the other. We ask them to do this with eyes open, looking forward, but then also with their eyes closed. And as you can imagine, the latter can be quite challenging when the crew have just returned and they're a little disoriented. They haven't quite got their balance. There's an organ in the inner ear that really allows us to feel gravity, let us know what is up, what is down. Right now, they're floating around. They don't get that sensation. They don't get that input into the brain. And so it's really amazing how the human body can adapt to different environments. And this was one of those situations where they adapt just fine in flight, but when they come back, their brain is getting new signals that they have to get used to ingesting and how to process it. Another test that we do is a recovery from fall. It's an example of if the crew ended up on the ground and needed to get back up. We measure their cardiovascular system in real time while doing this, but we also monitor how long it takes them to stand up, and then also how stable they are. So this is monitoring their balance and cardiovascular system. If you look at the crew right now, you might notice their faces are a little puffy. And that's because there's a phenomenon called cephalid fluid shift. It's simply an increase in the amount of fluid in the head and neck regions. When they come back to Earth in 1G, we're sitting here. Everyone on Earth has gravity pulling fluid to the lower extremities when you're standing up. In space, that force goes away. One of the cool things in the way that the human body adapts is we have sensors in the arteries that go up to the brain that tells the body, hey, we have more blood volume than we need, and tells the body to excrete it. So that's an adaptation to spaceflight. But when you return back to the ground, you have to fluid load to have enough fluid for the cardiovascular system to function properly. It's one of the reasons we monitor the cardiovascular system in this test. It's really key that we can monitor not just when they immediately return, but then shortly after as well. So that's some of the testing we do at the rally site. And then they will come to JSE here, and then starting the next day, we start doing more tests. Sometimes we repeat these same tests to look at their recovery response over time. But then we also throw them a full gamut of additional tests. And I'd love to explain those as well if we have time.
Yeah, so you mentioned when they land, they go through a bunch of tests, and also the day after they land, there's some additional tests. But how long are you kind of monitoring the crews, and what are those additional tests and recovery steps?
Right. The key window is the first hours and days of return. That's when they're reacclimating to the 1G environment. That's where we can get a lot of good information to help the mission planners make reasonable assessments on what we can expect crew to do once landing on the surface of the moon. But then there's another component where we are monitoring their recovery to pre-flight baseline, and that's really important to understand just how long that takes. We are also conducting some research that's really key to
Houston, integrity for consumables.
Go ahead.
Hey, Jenny. Our remaining food bobs is about 5.5. Our canisters, 2 full, and we expect we will fill 1 more. And then we expect we will come home with an empty one per the timeline and procedures listed there. And then we have packed 9 trash bags, and we also have other trash in the trash JSBs like packaging material or used clothing. Any questions?
Good data. Thank you, Christina. Ivy is wondering how many future trash bags you will have.
Denny, I'll estimate 4 more, and we will need another recommended location to stow them. We are filled in our 3 dedicated trash bags at this time.
All right, we copy. Thank you, Christina. We will have a new location for you shortly. And while I have you, I have 2 questions for you. First of all, we'd love to know whether you had a chance to dump the contingency urine bag.
No, I figured I would do that later when I could use the camera that's streaming the cabin video to record a video of it, and that is because earlier today, I think on the previous orbit shift, we attempted to get a video of it, but it just so happened that the sun was out that window, and so the video was totally washed out. I thought I'd get you guys a nice video. But can you let me know if there's a timeline on that?
That sounds like a good plan for us, Christina. We just need it done before sleep today, so it's not done during the ranging pass tomorrow. So we like your plan. And then one more question for you. Tonight we need to, or we are planning to reformat the cab cams. And when we do that, the little LEDs on those cameras will light up. We aren't recording or streaming, but we'd like to know if that would bother you. And if so, we will wave it off until crew wake.
Doesn't bother us at all. And I do have a question just for understanding on the dump. I thought that this dump would just be kind of like any CCU dump in terms of when it was allowed to happen. So are you just telling me that there's a time period tomorrow where we will be no dumps allowed?
Checking. And Christina, that's a negative. The CCUs will be go tomorrow. We just want to get this larger dump done today so that when we do ranging tomorrow, we can incorporate any perturbations that might be caused by the larger dump today.
Okay, copy that. I think we just wanted to make sure that you understand that all of our, I mean, you know, you got 4 people and that is a lot. So, but understand we want the big one out the door early, and I will take care of that tonight.
Thanks. We appreciate it. Integrity crew, also want to let you know that your flight director conference this evening will be on VC if you would like some video with your friend Jeff.
And Jenny, I have some more consumables info for you from the consumables cue card, as well as AGA readings when you're ready. And we are dialing for the PSC.
Ready for both.
Thank you. Okay, can I just report row numbers by letter?
We'll take letter and then number, yes.
Great. Row A, we have 3 packages remaining in stowage. Row B, 1. Row C, 3. Delta, 29. Echo, 1. Foxtrot, 1. Golf, 9. Hotel, 10. India, I think that's been reported elsewhere, so I won't interpret the 2x2 graph there. And 1 go back on line Echo. Although I said 1 remaining, we actually have 3 remaining unopened. It's just they were marked deployed because they were put in the hygiene bay, but we will need to find a spot to stow those.
We got it all, Christina. Thank you. Ready for AGA.
Yes, ma'am. CO2, 2.3. Oxygen, 21.8. 75.8 degrees and 14.65 PSIA.
Beautiful. Thank you, Christina. And one more note for you. PCD1 is go for use. Thanks.
Reid responds, quote, woohoo!
Copy.
This is Artemis Mission Control here in Houston, Texas. We just heard some communication there from NASA astronaut Christina Koch, currently on board the Orion spacecraft as it makes its way back home to Earth. She was reporting on some consumable numbers, as well as referencing the location of some of the bobs, which are the bulk overwrap bags, which store the food that is on the Orion spacecraft. And then she also reported some of the AGA readings, and that refers to an anomaly gas analyzer, which is a laser-based instrument that detects trace contaminants on board the Orion spacecraft, as well as the levels of things such as the oxygen and carbon dioxide. Here in Mission Control, I have Dr. Corey Terrio, who is the principal investigator for the Artemis II Spaceflight Standard Measures study. You were discussing some of the things that you monitor a few days after the crew returns back home to Earth.
That's when the fun begins. Once we get them back to JSE, they joke how they're pin cushions. We really do really push them to collect as much data as we can. There's a lot of medical evaluations that continue in the weeks and months that follow return. Standard measures specifically really gets a lot of information from collecting biological samples. That includes blood, urine, body swabs, saliva. Blood is a great tool for us. We can monitor their crew's nutritional status, their vitamin status. Blood contains biomarkers of cardiovascular health, bone health, muscle health. Urine is really key for us to track renal health. It can give us insights to bone loss through excretion of calcium. It can also provide information about risk of renal stones. We collect body swabs to monitor the microbial population on the human body, something called the microbiome. We see on ISS that this can change over time, so we like to monitor that as well. They're in a closed environment. It's a unique environment, so we are really interested in how the microbiome may change in that environment. And then I've also mentioned the functional performance tasks. Once we get them back to JSC here in Building 21, which houses the Human Health and Performance Directorate, we have a ton of stuff that we can do. I'll explain just a couple which I think are really cool. For Artemis II, we have them perform what's called a closed loop nulling task, where we have the crew inside of a mock lunar lander with controls. Their objective is to maintain an upright posture. We have screens in front of them that are showing a lunar terrain that as this platform moves to the left and right, so does the terrain, and their goal is to cancel out or null those movements and keep the platform in an upright posture. So that's the baseline measure, and then we try to trick them a little bit. So we have these dots that could be lunar dust that interferes with what they're seeing. So they have to rely more on their vestibular system and their sense of the gravity. And then we also ask them to do it with their eyes closed, where they really have to, that they no longer can rely on their eyes. So we're trying to understand, do some individuals rely on vision more so than information coming from their inner ear and what they feel as a upright posture. Something else that we will have them do on one of the first days that they return is we will put them in a pressurized EVA suit and ask them to do planetary EVA activities. If you think about the first time we're going to put boots on the lunar surface, the crew will have to work pretty quickly to establish a base. So we have them perform some of those similar tasks. Yes. Examples of what we ask them to do is egress a capsule, collect or connect umbilical cords, move packs around. We also have them do geology tasks. In the facility that we're doing this, we also have a very unique treadmill where we can have them walk uphill or downhill, different speeds to see what works for crew. The cool thing is this is done in what's called the Argos facility. It's an offloading system where we can provide different gravities. In this case, we're going to use lunar gravity for them to perform these tests. And the whole time we're monitoring their oxygen consumption and CO2 output, so we can see what their metabolic expenditure is. This is key. So if crew have to work hard, we need to understand just how far we can push them before they become fatigued. That's really critical information for Artemis IV and beyond. We also have a repeat of a lot of the sensory motor tasks that I mentioned before. We do these again on day 4 and again on day 9. Generally, somewhere within that first week, most crew come back to pre-flight baselines, but we want to monitor that. So we're really excited to get them back here, and we have a whole team in Building 21 here at JSC that are super excited to get to work with the crew and see how they perform after this amazing mission.
So Artemis II is not the first time that y'all have tracked standard measures. So standard measures has also been done on the International Space Station. So can you kind of talk about the importance of capturing these measures and this human research across different mission profiles?
Certainly, you're absolutely right. As I mentioned earlier, this Artemis spaceflight standard measure study is part of a much larger project, much larger endeavor, and we heavily rely on ISS participation to collect these similar measures. On ISS, as we know, the nominal mission is approximately 6 months. Occasionally, some crew members get to stay closer to a year. A few have gone beyond that. But by having these shorter duration missions, these medium 6-month duration missions, and a few longer extended duration missions, we hope to generate enough data to extrapolate beyond that and to provide good information for a 3+ year Mars mission. That's a big unknown right now. So some of these responses to spaceflight occur early, within days and weeks. Some take months to occur, and so it's really critical to collect as much information as we can across different mission profiles, across different platforms, to give us the best chance of understanding what we should expect from a very long-term stay in space.
Well, this has been fascinating, but to round it all out, can you tell us a little bit about how you are feeling for this mission so far and your role in it?
I'm super excited, extremely grateful to have this opportunity. We're conducting human research on humans that went around the moon. It's absolutely amazing. I really need to take a moment to thank all of the subject matter experts, the test operators, the science integrators within the Human Health and Performance Directorate here, as well as the support from the NASA Human Research Program that enables this research, not just on Artemis, but on ISS and across many of our other platforms. So again, I'm just super excited. Can't wait for the crew to get home and we can start looking at generating all of this post-flight data, see how they respond, and go from there. Go from there to help inform future Artemis missions.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, this was Dr. Corey Theriault, Principal Investigator for the Artemis II Spaceflight Standard Measures Study. Thank you so much.
Thank you.